Welcome back to Franchise Player, and today we're checking out 5 great games that are still stuck on the PS3. And first up, we're starting strong. We're going with the original MotorStorm. So the first MotorStorm was a heck of a game, man. And this game came out all the way back in March of '07. So a pretty old game. The MotorStorm series went on to be, a pretty successful series. The MotorStorm series came out on, multiple releases on the PS3. A PSP release, a Vita release, and a MotorStorm game was even released on PS2. So MotorStorm in its heyday was quite the IP for Sony. And this game is still super fun to play. I literally went on last night, popped this in the PS3, and had a ton of fun. You can race on bikes, semi-trucks, rally cars, even buggies. So you can race on multiple kinds of vehicles and have a ton of fun. Personally, I think it was fun using the rally cars. I really enjoyed that. And then the bikes are pretty cool too. But for this game coming out in 2007, I think it holds up really well. Not only do the graphics still look really good for the age, but the gameplay has aged really well, where it's that perfect blend of arcadiness, where at the time it probably looked pretty real, and I would say it still does look decent, especially for a game of its age, approaching 20 years old. And I think the first MotorStorm is a game that I wouldn't say is necessarily forgotten about, but just the MotorStorm series as a whole is not talked about enough, and I really can't imagine how good a MotorStorm game would look on modern systems. So when MotorStorm came out, this originally got an 84. So 84 is a pretty solid review. I definitely think it's a must-have. And like I said, I mean, the addicting, adrenaline-filled gameplay is pretty hard to beat of MotorStorm. So if you're looking for a racer, something that's not too serious, I think this game holds up and it's definitely worth your time. And this is a game that you can easily get for like $5 or $10 pretty much all day. Next up here, we have a PS3 launch title, and that is Resistance: Fall of Man. So this game came out all the way back in '06, right alongside the PS3, and was the beginning of the Resistance franchise. I would say FPSs are not nearly as big as they used to be. It seems like in the 7th generation, whether it was Xbox or whether it was PlayStation or PC, first-person shooters were just being pumped out left and right because they were selling really well. People were loving the online multiplayer, especially on consoles, of most first-person shooters. But for this being a launch title coming out in 2006, this game holds up really, really well. I would say the only thing that makes this game, slightly dated, other than maybe the graphics a bit, would be the controls. The controls, I wouldn't say are clunky, but they're not as refined as they would be with later first-person shooters. I mean, a year after this, you got Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which really, made first-person shooters explode on consoles and kind of had COD take over the world. But for a pre-COD 4 shooter, pre-COD 4 controller setup, I would say Resistance: Fall of Man is definitely smooth. It's comfortable. After, I would say 15-20 minutes, I got pretty used to the controls. Just an example that's kind of funky with the controls on this game is you actually melee with triangle, which to me is not a big deal, but if you're used to more modern shooters, it might catch you off guard. Resistance: Fall of Man got an 86 on Metacritic and was getting a ton of praise when it came out. So I'll definitely say this much. I mean, I went back and played Resistance: Fall of Man not too long ago. I didn't beat it, but I guarantee you if I would have had a PS3 at launch, Resistance: Fall of Man would have been coming home with me. It's definitely a great game, dude. Highly recommend it. And this is another game that you can get for $5 or $10. I left the sticker on there, but I got this at a Game Expo close to a year ago for $5. And I was like, you know what, man? A PS3 classic for $5. You can't really go wrong with that. But Resistance, is another series that I think Sony should revive. I know there was 1, 2, and 3, the trilogy of the Resistance games on the PS3. You had a Resistance game on the PSP and the Vita. So I know 3 ended up kind of being a flop. A lot of people say. I still haven't played it. Definitely will want to check it out. But another series where I think it would be incredible to have on modern consoles like the PS5, and hopefully one day Sony will start to get some love for some of these older IPs. I've only played the single player on this. The online was shut down years ago. Let me know if you played the online for this, dude. I never played the online. I'm curious if it was fun. I'm sure it was with the gameplay. The next game we have up is a game that was actually technically trapped on PS3 and Vita. This was actually one of the first cross-buy titles that you could get from PlayStation. So I'm talking PlayStation Allstars Battle Royale. And this came out back in November of 2012. So this game is pretty old now too, but it was really cool that when you bought it, you'd get it on your PS3 and Vita, so you could take it on the go. This game did not get a ton of positive reviews. I can see why. It ended up getting a 74 on Metacritic. And I think a lot of people knocked this game because it was essentially just a Smash Bros. Clone, which that's cool. I get it, man, but I think there was a lot of missed potential with this game. I still think it's pretty fun to hop on, whether it's single player or, multiplayer couch co-op if you have some buddies over. But PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, I hope, is a series that PlayStation will eventually revive and try to bring back and maybe do it a little better. Because like I said, I think there was a ton of potential on this game. It was definitely missing some iconic characters from PlayStation, which was another knock on it. But yeah, it's a pretty cheap game. You can get it for, easily $10, probably less locally. So yeah, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. I don't own this one physically, but I do have it on Vita. And I would highly recommend it on either PS3 or Vita just because it's a cheap, fun, PlayStation exclusive. So the next one we have here, I think this is a crime that this has not been either remastered or ported, remade, and put on newer PlayStation systems. And that's going to be the first Infamous. It blows my mind that PlayStation has not tried to port this or release some kind of updated Infamous collection. Infamous as a series was pretty popular. I mean, 1 and 2 sold really well. There was some DLC for it back in the day, and then you had Infamous Second Son on PS4. I think this game was really special. It came out in a cool time frame. May of 2009, got an 85 on Metacritic, so the reviews for this were about as solid as it gets. 85, I mean, that's definitely a must-play game, or practically must-play game in my opinion. But what's really cool about the Infamous series, if you've never played it, is you can either choose to go basically the good route or the evil route, and that definitely makes it feel like you have some choice as the player. So definitely a cool mechanic in the gameplay there. And one thing too, man, is this game has some comic book cutscenes, and the comic book cutscenes are just badass. Like, they're super fun to watch. It makes the game a little more timeless, gives it like this really awesome gritty feel. And a funny story about how I actually first got Infamous is if you had a PS3 back in the day during the famous 2011 PlayStation Network hack, you could choose Infamous as one of the free games that they wanted to give you as basically your gift for dealing with the PSN outage. So I chose Infamous, and I was super happy with that pick, and it introduced me to the series. And last but not least here, we have another PlayStation classic, and this one is actually one of the most surprising for me as to why it doesn't have a remake, a port, a remaster. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. Not only did this game sell super well, but it is easily one of the best looking games on PS3. Came out all the way back in June of 2008, so really old game. It's definitely well past due to get, at least to be maybe a part of a Metal Gear collection that they'll probably end up doing. There's rumors that on the second Metal Gear Solid collection, this will be in it. So fingers crossed for that it gets released in a future Metal Gear Solid collection. This did get a 94 on Metacritic. I mean, this game was pretty much universally loved. This game specifically made a lot of people, I remember, go out and get a PS3. I remember in stores, back then there was really cool Metal Gear Solid 4 bundles. This game was definitely, straight up a system seller back in 2008. And this game definitely still looks incredible, and I think most fans would kill to see this on modern consoles. It's very strange that Metal Gear Solid 4 is stuck on the PS3. So if you don't have a PS3 and you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, I'm sure you've definitely maybe emulated this at some point, and it's definitely worth having in your collection. And it's a game that is also pretty cheap, holds up pretty well, and it's about as good as it gets from Hideo Kojima. And I know there's a lot of diehard Hideo Kojima fans out there. So Metal Gear Solid 4, also fingers crossed that this makes a comeback and eventually gets a release on modern consoles. And there's a ton of other great PS3 games that are stuck on the PS3 that I'll eventually end up doing a part 2 for this and throwing those in it too. These are some of the more well-known games that I talked about today, so I don't think there's any surprises here in games that I named. But I'll have a part 2 of this with some more games. These ones are going to be maybe less known or less popular than the ones I named today. But let me know some of your favorite games that are stuck on the PS3. There's a ton of them. But yeah, as usual, appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you soon with another video.